Pacific Mortgage is a multi-state corporation supported by mortgage professionals who live and work here in the Treasure Valley. The office is at 8921 Hackmore Drive, just off South Maple Grove. American Pacific Mortgage treats you as an individual, not a number. They are a local equal housing lender with underwriters who know the area. Finding the right loan for you is the goal. They have a wide range of loan products: FHA, VA, refinance, home equity, and reverse mortgages for seniors. More on the web at thelendingspot.com or phone 629-4959, NMLS number 1850.
And now, your friend in the real estate business, John Adamson.
Well, welcome to the first edition of Property Line Today for 2015. I'm John Adamson, the broker of the Realty Management Associates Realty Center team. And my co-host this year is
Curtis Mangus with American Pacific Mortgage.
And I'm glad you could join us.
Thank
Curtis
you.
and I did 26 episodes in 2014. Are you up for 52 episodes this year?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. We always like to give a little news that you can use, and then we'll take a little break, and we'll answer any questions that you, the viewer, has on buying, selling, or investing in real estate. All you have to do is go to propertylinetoday.net. Up in the right-hand corner, it says Ask a Question. Type in your question, and we'll answer it at the end of the show. Or if you're watching, you can call us at 830-2557, and we'll get your question on the air as soon as possible. Since this is the first show for 2015, kind of want to let people know how 2014 ended and kind of what our predictions are for 2015. 2014 looked like it was going to be a robust year. We had a bad winter. It had the government shut down, and 2013 was pretty bleak, and 2014 looked like it was going to be that comeback year from the Great Recession. And we saw home prices going up and sales going up every month through April. And in April, we actually hit the high for the year, 215,000 for your typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage home in Boise. But after April, things just started gradually going downhill. The supply of homes went down, tight credit, a lot of factors. Basically, we saw the home prices just continue to fall until December. So we ended up, for single-family home sales, they were actually about 5% over 2013 last year. And we're anticipating that this year we'll probably see an increase in sales of 5 to 7%. The dollar volume was up come April of 2014, nearly 13%. But with the prices going down later in the year, 2014 ended up with about a 7% increase in overall home prices. We're predicting that we'll see home prices in 2015 go up 5 to 7%. The home price right now is about $215,000 in Boise. Meridian, it's about $209,000. In Canyon County, it's about $132,000. And we're anticipating that those numbers will go up 5 to 7%. By this time in 2016. We're going to continue having shortages of lesser priced homes. Finished lots right now are still very expensive. Builders are feeling they're having to build a $200,000 to $300,000 starter home, and our normal would be under $175,000. Homes under that category right now have a little over a month's supply. So definitely a seller's market. Fewer foreclosures. We had about half the number of foreclosures in distressed properties in 2014, and we'll see even a bigger reduction this year till probably less than 3% of all the listings will be distressed type properties. The good news is the oil prices. And if we can keep oil prices low, this is going to be really a godsend for homes too.
Well, it's interesting. Recently, $1.89 a gallon gas is virtually down half from where it was at its peak last year. And most people don't realize that the price of gas does have an impact on rates economically, and it's actually had a surprisingly positive impact on rates. You saw the article that I sent out that actually there was a prediction that partly because of the drop in oil prices now, that they're predicting interest rates to be in the low to mid threes, and actually they're just about there now. The rates have actually dropped almost 1/8 of a point in the last few days. I saw a 15-year rate recently at 2 7/8, and of course it depends on credit score and loan product, but a lot of 30-year fixed rates right now are in the mid threes. I'm seeing 3 3/8 to 3.5% 30-year fixed loans. So folks, if you've got an interest rate over probably 4 to 4.25%, you need to think of, well, you at least need to have an analysis done,
right,
especially if you've got mortgage insurance on there, because with the increase in prices, you may be able to do a refinance and either reduce the mortgage insurance or eliminate it altogether, because if you've done an FHA loan with mortgage insurance, you may be able to refinance it into a conventional loan and get rid of the mortgage insurance altogether.
People that have second homes, people that have rental property, are they going to be able to take advantage of refinancing right now?
I think so. Obviously on those, most of those don't have mortgage insurance on them, but the rules remain the same. If you've got 4.25% to 4.5% money, and you may be able to refinance that into a 3.5% loan, there's a significant chance that it may save you enough money. And everybody's circumstances are a little bit different, and really all we do when we do a refinance, we take the monthly savings into the cost. And so if it's going to save you $100 a month and it costs you $3,500 to refinance, well then your break-even point is 35 months, and that's what everybody has to look at, is how long are you going to keep the property. If you're planning on holding that property for a very long time, then that $100 a month is probably worth doing. You know, I don't like to do it if it's much over about a 3-year, 35 to 40 month span. If it gets much over that, it's too long of a payout to break even.
Now, I don't think we're going to see the oil decline in oil prices affect new home prices that much, because the cost, the construction price index, it's up about 3%, and so, which it was at about 1, so it's about 3 times what it was. So we're seeing a big increase in the cost of construction. But what hopefully these lower oil prices will mean is that we won't see the cost of construction go higher than it is right now. Right now, new construction versus existing homes is about $25,000 to $30,000 more for the same home. And hopefully, by the lower oil prices, because oil goes into the asphalt shingle roofs, it goes into the insulation, it goes into the tiles, the carpet, you name it, oil goes into a lot of the building products. So hopefully this will kind of curb the inflation that we've seen in building products, which is another reason new home construction has gone up so much in price.
Finally, the other nice thing about oil is if you on an average were spending $250 a month on gas, you're now spending about $125 to $130 a month, and there's nothing better to help consumer confidence than right now, I think, filling up your tank for half of what it costs, because there's more money in your pocket, and that extra $100 a month can make a difference of $20,000 or $25,000 in the price of the home.
I'm hoping that the consumer confidence is going to be the one thing that really makes 2015 the start of the recovery. Now, we had a consumer confidence index of about 68 in 2013. It got up to around 75 in 2014, and we're predicting it'll be in the low 90s, around 94, 95% this year. Now, with that many people feeling confident in the market, I'm hoping that we'll see more of the millennials,
first-time home buyers.
First-time home buyers say, you know, now is the time to buy. They said interest rates would never be in the 3s. They are.
Yes.
And we are actually making more money because we're putting out less for gas, so they're going to feel richer than they have in the past. And I think they're going to get on it and they're going to want to buy.
Also read a recent article said it's very unusual in our history to have a dramatic drop in gas prices along with a significant drop in interest rates. That is a very nice combination to have, especially for, well, any buyers, but especially first-time home buyers, because you're going to buy more house, have a cheaper payment, and more disposable income all at the same time. And most people don't have that luxury.
And I think the first-time home buyer, the millennial, they've wanted to buy, but they wanted to buy a $130,000 to $160,000 home, and there just aren't any to be had.
No.
But now they're going to realize they can pay $220,000, $230,000 for a brand new home, and their payment's going to be still less than what they'd be paying in rent. So they're actually going to get a nicer home for what they'd be paying in rent, and I think they're going to do it. Especially once the myth of having to have 20% down is totally done away with, and people go back knowing that there are a lot of different ways to finance a home and not have 20% down.
Well, as we've talked about many times on the show, I have lots of low down and no down programs out there, and the only thing better than cheap interest rates is cheap gas to go along with it. And if you don't have to put any money down, you can get the seller to pay your closing costs. You can probably, a lot of times I help clients get into a house for $1,000, $1,500. If you can buy a home for at or cheaper than you can rent it, along with what the price of gas is, and basically 3.5% interest rates, I wouldn't recommend you wait, because I don't see that window of opportunity lasting a real long time.
Well, and I think the millennials are going to realize that student debt and housing debt are different kinds of debt. One, the student debt, you've already got your bang for the buck, and now you have to pay it off. Housing debt, you may never pay off. It's that kind of debt. It's kind of a user type debt. You don't have to pay off a home. I mean, if you rent, you're always going to have a rent payment. So I think the millennials are going to start looking at your monthly house payment as a utility cost or an opportunity cost rather than a big debt that has to be repaid. Because a lot of them look at a housing debt the same way they're looking at their student debt that they can't get out from underneath. The nice thing is with housing debt, guess how you can always get rid of housing debt? You can sell the property. You can't sell your education. So it's going to be this mind shift, and with better consumer confidence, which we're already seeing, better affordability, we're going to see that millennial jump into the market in 2015. The other thing with low oil prices and making people feel richer is we were predicting higher interest rates. And in fact, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, still says that we're probably looking at 6% in 2016. And they're still saying that we're probably looking at 4.7 to 4.9% later this year. But the good news is the stock market has really benefited by low interest rates. Now, very few people are invested in the stock market right now, except the 10% that controls 90% of the wealth. Well, they're not out buying entry-level homes, but they do like the stock market to continue to go up, and low interest rates have helped that happen. So even with there being no quantitative easing, that's the program where the government was buying billions of dollars worth of mortgages each week to keep interest rates low, there's going to be a non-government supported quantitative easing happening in 2015. This is going to keep interest rates low because the people who can make this happen want it to happen because it's going to benefit the stock market.
Well, and very few people, if any, projected the collapse in oil prices.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't hear anything about that in 2014.
I'm still waiting for it to end. I think I'm waiting to drive down the street and stand back at $4 a gallon.
So it's still a shock. I see sticker shock every time I drive by a gas station at $1.89, $1.90 gas. And as I've said many times on the show, and it's unfortunate, but the people who predict interest rates are very consistent. They either lie or they're wrong, because for the last several years, every prediction about increasing interest rates has been wrong.
It has.
In 2013, they projected rising rates. It didn't happen. In 2014, they predicted rising rates. It didn't happen. And the first thing that happened at the end of 14 and the beginning of 15 is just like gas prices, we had a very significant drop in rates, which is, of course, is fantastic for the consumer, great for consumer confidence, and I think bodes well for the housing market in 2015. And why would you rent a house for $1,000 a month when you can buy it for $900?
Well, the pat answer is because we want to be mobile. Now, when we do our predictions, one of the things that we've done at the Real Pro Foundation is tracking, take this job and shove it. And it's amazing the number of people who have jobs who are willing to quit their job and go find something else. This millennial is a little bit more entrepreneurial, and they maybe don't show up in the unemployment figures, but you know, it's hard for them to get credit right now because they're self-employed, or they have this notion of wanting to be self-employed in the future, or being able to take opportunities in other cities, and so they want to be able to sell. And so that's why they rent. And they see grandma and grandpa unable to sell their home or losing their home, mom and dad upside down in their home. They don't want to be in that position. They want to be mobile. Well, I think they're going to finally realize, well, that's over. Home prices are going up each and every year. If I buy right, I should be able to sell in a few years and maybe actually make some money. And I think that mindset is going to change. Before we get into the 2015 predictions, our workshops have been so popular. These are the same classes that have been approved by the Idaho Real Estate Commission for real estate agents continuing ed, and we're making them available to our Property Line viewer. There's going to be a workshop for home buyers where we're going to discuss every type of loan program, the pros and the cons, what different programs will allow you to get into with lower down payments, just about everything you'd want to know about getting a loan. And then, of course, reverse mortgages. As more and more people become eligible for reverse mortgages, and they can be used to buy new homes, they can be used to refinance your existing home, so that if you're over 62 years old, you don't have a house payment. We're going to do those workshops. So 1 month it'll be the home buying workshop, next month it'll be the reverse mortgage workshop. And you're planning on it being the second Wednesday of the month?
Every morning. Yeah, every morning. The second Wednesday of the month in the mornings is currently where I'm planning to hold those. And so go ahead and get a hold of us at Property Line, and we'll get you registered. We'll let you know what the subject of the month is.
Right.
And we'll spend some time with you so we can get you educated and help you make the right decision.
Let's talk a little bit about our predictions for 2015. One of them that we came up with is the age of the buyer. If we look in 2008, pre-Great Recession, the average home buyer was 31 years old. Well, we're predicting that the average home buyer this year is going to be right around 37, maybe 38 years old. So, you know, that's a big difference. A lot more income, better credit, out of school longer. Their parents are just so sick of them, they don't know what to do. So I think the higher, we're going to see incomes different. 2008, the borrowers, people going out buying homes, the average income here in Idaho is $44,000. We're predicting that it's going to be $51,000. Family size a little bit bigger. In 2008, average household was 2 people. Now it's 2.5. So, I think we're going to see a little bit lower average loan size because people have been preparing to put that 20% down, so they're going to have more money to put down. And still a good number of the people who are going to buy in 2015 are not your millennials, they're not your first-time home buyers. They are people that now have equity in their home. They're going to sell and they're going to buy a better home,
They're
or
trading
a more
up.
expensive home, and they'll have more money to work with. Some of the other predictions, we're still going to see a sluggish new home market just because the construction price index is so high. There's still a labor shortage in the area. We had such a talented workforce for new construction. The Great Recession hit. Many of them changed occupations or moved to North Dakota. So we still have a labor shortage for new construction. And one of the other things is it's still very, very difficult, if not impossible, for a builder to go out and get a construction loan to build a new home. Now you have some of your big companies that they can cash flow a certain number of homes, but for your small to mid-sized builder that relied on somebody, either the prospective home buyer going out and getting a construction loan or going out and getting a spec loan to build new construction, it's still very difficult. Commercial banks would normally make this, and they've been very reluctant to make construction loans. So I think we're going to have a very sluggish new home market this year.
Well, unfortunately, credit is still very tight. I'm starting to see a few glimmers of hope with things like Fannie Mae reintroduced their 3% down loan, which is nice, though Idaho Housing had it all along. I've seen a few other things that have eased up a little bit, which gives me some encouragement with it. But, you know, especially lot loans, construction loans are still just particularly difficult to get.
Yeah, very hard to get. Some things that happened the end of last year, we had elections. We had a lot of Republicans elected. I think we're going to see a little easing of credit this year, which is going to be beneficial. Right now, there's such a fear in the mortgage banking industry that if they make a mistake, they're going to have to buy the loan back.
Well, they are.
Yeah. Worst case, they might go to prison. So, you know, they're being very cautious. For instance, if FHA says that a 590 credit score is acceptable, they're saying, no, we're not going to look at any that are less than 620. So I think we're going to see a reduction in these overlays this year as Congress and the rule makers start looking and saying, you know, maybe we've been a little too hard on the mortgage companies. We're going to start looking at a track record of abuse. So unless there's this track record of abuse, they can make a mistake and we're not going to crucify them. I think that's going to free up credit a little bit. And just by making it not so difficult to get a home loan, I think it's going to improve the housing market this year. We had payroll jobs in the year 2000, 132 million payroll jobs. In 2013, we had 136 million. So we're hardly keeping pace with just new people moving in. Mortgage rates, so in 2000 were 8%, in the 2013 4%, and right now less than 4%. These are all going to be contributing factors for pent-up demand. And people are going to say, you know, I've been waiting. Why can't I go out and buy now? The interest rates have gone back to historically lows. New home or existing home prices didn't go up 12, 14, 16%. They only went up 6 or 7%. And I'm going to buy. And so I think pent-up demand is going to have a big role to play. And it's not just the millennial buyers that didn't buy, but, you know, we're adding almost 1 million new people in the United States every month. You know, that's 12 million new Americans. You know, that alone, you know, a lot of these people moving to the United States, they know what the American dream is, and that's to own a home. And they're going to want to buy. So I do think a multi-year recovery is very possible. I think it's going to be 5 to 7% this year and next year in home prices and home sales. I think we're going to have more manageable mortgage programs and lower rates than had been predicted. Just the population pent-up demand is going to force new homes being built, and hopefully that will increase inventory. And I think we're going to have the increased inventory, not with cheaper homes, but we're going to have an increased inventory in buyers realizing that a $225,000 home is really what they would usually have to pay for a $160,000 home. And they're going to go, why not pay more? It's what I wanted to pay for anyway.
Well, the other side of that is with cheaper rates, it helps offset that much better. You know, if their rate last year was 4.25 and this year it's 3.5, they can certainly buy more house, and it's not going to have that much of an impact on their payment because a 30-year fixed loan, the rate is going to be considerably cheaper, and that helps their buying power considerably.
And I saw a graph, came across the wire a couple days ago, and it showed rent versus buying. And it cost more to buy a home than to rent a home, clear up until about 2009. But then after 2009, the graph started going the other way, and it actually costs more to rent than to buy. And it's actually increasing on an average of about 3%, but in some areas 5 to 7%. And I think we're going to see rents increase 5 to 7% here in the Treasure Valley. So, properties right now that are renting for $1,200 a month, I think you're probably going to see around $1,300 a month. Homes over, and it's just going to be across the board, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. I see we're going to see this increase in rents, and that's going to couple that with low interest rates. It's going to make that gap between renting.
That spread's going to be larger.
And people are going to say, why would I rent when I can buy? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, especially, it would be interesting to run analysis now on a $200,000 house at 3.5%.
We'll do that for next show, for sure.
Versus what you could rent it for. I figured the other day on I think it was a 3.5% interest rate, it was like $4.60 a thousand or something. So your principal and interest would be around $900. So I think you could probably buy that place for $1,000, $1,050 a month.
And I think landlords are going to say, boy, instead of buying junky little houses, I want to buy really nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car, or 3-car garage homes.
Because they
and
can
rent
rent
them
them.
out because I'll have fewer repairs, less maintenance. I'll have a nicer home to appreciate. And, with the higher rents and the lower interest rates, that's not only going to benefit the home buyer, it's going to benefit the person wanting to buy those homes for investment. And it's going to mean they can buy a nicer home and get a greater cash flow. So altogether on monetary policy, quantitative easing is finished, but I think it's going to continue non-governmental in nature, just in order to keep the stock market happy. So I think we're going to see continued low interest rates through at least fall of this year. And then when they do go back up, it's not going to be any higher than where they were the end of 2014 or mid-2014, which was still very low in the 4.25%, 4.5% range. I think that besides the interest rates, with the population growing so rapidly, I think that's going to make a difference with people feeling richer because of the oil prices. Just so many things. I do feel that 2015 is going to be that takeoff year that we were looking for since the Great Depression ended. What do you think?
I would agree. Everything, lower price of gas, lower rates. Prices are still very competitive. Rates are going up. As I said earlier, it's been very unusual in our economic history to have a huge drop in oil prices along with a significant drop in interest rates at the same time. Both of those things give the average consumer a significant amount of buying power this year that they didn't have last year.
Right.
And where prices haven't gone up very much, there's actually a window of opportunity there for people to either buy more house or to buy the house that they could have bought last year and have more disposable income, partly because of the cheaper rate and also because of the drop in gas prices.
I think more people are going to want to get into buying homes as investment property. And another thing our research indicates for this coming year, you're going to see more people buying second homes and vacation homes. I mean, after all, who's the best renter? Yourself. You're not going to let yourself down. And so I think people that want to have a second home or want a vacation property, they're going to say, I'm going to take advantage of the low interest rates and go out and buy a second home or an investment, a second home or a vacation home. So we're anticipating to see those jump up significantly this coming year. And again, the consumer price index is only going to be the GDP is probably going to go up about 3%. Job growth pretty stagnant. Construction about double what it is now. Consumer confidence is the big one, jumping up from an 87 in 2014 to maybe a 95, 98 this year. And again, low interest rates. So those are our predictions. We're going to take a quick little break. And when we get back, we're going to answer the questions that you have on buying, selling, or investing in real estate. If you haven't got your question in yet, go to www.propertylinetoday.net, go to Ask a Question, or pick up the phone right now and call us at 830-2557. Curtis and I will be right back. Well, this is the portion of the show where we answer any questions that you have on buying, selling, or investing in real estate. It's not too late. If you have a question, you can go to the phone and call us at 830-2557, or still go to propertylinetoday.net. In the right-hand corner, it says Ask a Question. And if we can't answer it on today's show, Curtis and I will answer it on next week's show. The first question comes from Jackie C. Jackie says, I live in Meridian and have an 820 credit score. I have 2 rental units that I bought several years ago in Caldwell. I would like to buy 1 or 2 more while interest rates are down, but I don't want to put 20% down. I can do fix-up. Any ideas?
Well, Jackie, your options are pretty limited on investment property. You can now get by with 15% down on an investment property, but you're paying mortgage insurance, which is fairly expensive. And so you can get by with a little bit less than 20% down now, but not very much. Unfortunately, doing the fix-up doesn't have anything to do with it on an investment property.
We've talked about that quite a few times.
Right. So no, the fix-up doesn't have much to do with it. It really just boils down to you really should have 20% down, and ideally you should have 25.
Right. Now, there are some Fannie Mae foreclosures that come in from time to time. And don't those only require 15% down?
Or I think the home path might even be 10, but they're rare.
Yeah.
They're just, because always the owner occupied have first shot at
Right.
them. And usually there's just not many left, especially in the market the way we have it right now.
Sometimes you do see them over in the Caldwell area, or outlying Caldwell area don't sell quite as fast as the Boise area. So Jackie, you can go to the Property Line Today website. We have a search engine on there. In fact, you can search just for foreclosures. And you might want to look for bank-owned property under the Home Path program or the Fannie Mae foreclosure homes, because they do have a lesser down payment. The good news is, you can find really nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, newer homes in the Caldwell area for rent, right around $110,000. So, you're only looking at about $20,000, $25,000 to get into a really good rental unit that's probably going to bring in rent of around $800 a month to maybe a high of $950 a month. And with interest rates so low right now, with that much down, you're probably only going to have a total house payment of around $600 a month. So, Jackie, and again, at the first of the show, we talked about some of our predictions for this year and next year. I think we're going to see a lot more owner will carry and lease-to-own opportunities as an investor. I wouldn't be afraid to try to find homes that are owner-occupied, where they need to move, they've owned the property for a while, maybe they've refinanced and taken a lot of their equity out of the property, and see if maybe you couldn't cash out and have them carry the paper. And you might do that for less than 20% down. Yep. Let's see the next question.
Yeah, it's from Jennifer. On last week's show, you said if someone is planning on buying a new home, that they should do it before April 1st. What happens if I missed it? I have 2 kids, and sometimes I only hear half the story. Well, Jennifer, I think what we were talking about was the homeowner's exemption, which is you have to close on or before April 15th. In order to be able to get that tax break in Idaho for the year. And so that's what we were talking about, is just ideally, if you can, it's always nice to close before April 15th. So if it doesn't have the exemption on it, you can get it added.
And that can save you an awful lot of money.
About half.
Oh, yeah. And so if you don't file the homeowner's exemption, if you're not into the home before April 15th to file the homeowner's exemption, you have to wait a full year, pay the full taxes until next year to file your homeowner's exemption. So it's one of the benefits of buying in the spring is getting that homeowner's exemption.
Yes, and now's the time.
It is the time.
You know, if you can find something, if you're planning on buying and you can close on it in the next few months, it's helpful just because if it doesn't have an exemption on it, you can go ahead and put that on there. Because I hate closing people in May without an exemption, and they're going to make 10, 11 payments with those higher taxes because they don't get it back.
No. The next question is from Judy. Judy says, what did Curtis say was changing for home buyers over 65 years old next year? Had a lot of calls off that. What we were talking about was the reverse mortgage program.
And it's actually age 62.
Right.
Unfortunately, as of March 2nd, they're going to start making people credit and income qualify for those loans, which previously HUD really didn't do. And so all I'm telling my reverse clients is, if you're planning on doing a reverse mortgage, let's go ahead and try and get them done before March 2nd. And actually, you just have to be in process and have your FHA case number. So you have to be about halfway through. And that way, the underwriting guidelines are a little more lenient and the paperwork will be a little bit easier. Because after that, they'll still be able to get a loan. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. And they estimate with them having to credit and income qualify somewhere between 10 and 20% of the loans that could have been closed won't get done because they won't qualify.
So it might kick a few people out.
It will absolutely kick a few people out. Of course, we won't know for a while, but they've done some studies and went back and looked at like a previous year's worth of people have been approved with kind of what the guidelines are, and they estimate somewhere between 10 and 20% won't be able to qualify.
And this is an excellent program. If you're 62 years or older, why have a house payment going into your? If you have 50% equity, either sell the home you're in and take that equity and put 50% down on a new home, get a reverse mortgage, have no house payment for the rest of your life. I think that's a great opportunity that a lot of seniors just aren't taking advantage of.
Well, there's so many of them don't understand it. And so it's gone very well. I'm trying to get the word out, as you know, as much as I can with teaching classes and talking to agents and clients, and I'm surprised at how many people just don't understand how they work. Most people don't even know you can do a reverse mortgage on a purchase. And basically,
I think most realtors don't know that.
No, over half when I teach these classes, 2/3 of them don't even know that their clients can do one. So obviously I'm out there trying to promote that. But if you're 62 years of age or older and you can put 50% down, you can buy the house and never have to make a house payment again.
In fact, the workshops have been so popular. If you watch Property Line today and want to take advantage of our first-time home buyer workshop where we go over all the different ways to buy a home, FHA, rural housing, conventional, how to save on mortgage insurance premiums. It's a great 2-hour seminar. Or if you want to learn more about reverse mortgages, we're going to do the workshops every other month, and they're going to be the second Tuesday?
Second Wednesday of the month in the morning.
Okay, over in Eagle.
Right, and so if you want to go ahead and contact us at Property Line and just let us know, I'll probably do a different one every month on mortgage insurance and reverse mortgages and different financing options. And then if it's a particular topic that they're interested in, we can go ahead and register them.
And these are the same workshops that realtors take for their continuing education. These are all approved by the Idaho Real Estate Commission. No one's going to be trying to sell you a loan product or get you to do anything. Strictly educational. So if you'd like to attend a home buying workshop or a workshop in reverse mortgages, go to www.propertyline today. And when you ask your question, just give us your name, address, contact information. We'll get back to you and sign you up for one of the workshops. Yep. Let's see, it's my turn. This one comes from Vicki and John. We have rented half a duplex for 14 years. We have saved approximately $130,000 cash. We would like to pay cash so that we don't have to pay $550 each month going into retirement. Please sign us up for your homebuyers workshop. You talked about last workshop. Vicki and John will certainly get you into the workshop, but I hope you're listening. If you've spent 14 years in someone else's duplex, you've pretty well paid that duplex for them. And I can tell you the average duplex in Boise is about $230,000. So you've been paying off their duplex, so they own it, and also been able to save up $130,000. Now you're thinking you're going to take that $130,000 and buy a house for cash so that you don't have a house payment. Well, right now that's going to buy you the average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, newer home in Nampa or Caldwell.
Right, and if you do the reverse mortgage, they can buy a much nicer house. They can probably go up to a $200,000 house.
For the same amount of money.
Well, they can put $100,000 down, still have no house payment, and have money in the bank.
They have a $30,000
cushion. And so that's what I like about the reverse mortgage. It doubles their buying power and enables them to not have to use or burn up all of their cash as well.
Or if they want to live in the Boise area where you're going to be very hard pressed. At the first of the show, we mentioned that entry-level workforce housing, those are homes under $165,000. There's only about a 1-month supply of those homes, very little inventory. But if you get into like the 210 range, there's a lot of very nice homes in the Boise market. Well, if you pay cash, Vicki and John, you're not going to be able to have that nice home.
No.
But you could take some of your money and get a reverse mortgage, accomplish the same thing, no house payment, but you're going to live in a much nicer home. Probably a lot nicer than the 2-bedroom, 1-bath, half of a duplex you've been living in for the past 14 years. So, and we will contact you, Vicki and John, about coming to a workshop.
The next one's from Brad. My girlfriend and I bought a timeshare in Park City, Utah, and then broke up. I've been paying $120 a month, paying it off over the past 9 years, plus taxes and maintenance of $700 a year. Problem is I can't get away to use it, and it's not something my kids will ever use. I paid $7,000 for it, and units like mine rent for $175 a day. Can I trade this to a seller as a down payment on a house? Selling is really not an option, but I can transfer to a new owner. Well, Brad, it's very difficult to be able to trade something like this as a down payment because, one, we've got all kinds of problems with valuation and tracking the money, and so my answer would have to be no.
Well, I'm going to go and say it depends. You know, there are some circumstances where a seller, if they're getting top dollar for their house, might give you top dollar for your timeshare in Park City as all are part of the down payment. Then it would be convincing a lender that it was worth what you were trading it. And I think that could be done. I'm familiar with Park City. It's the #1 timeshare area in the entire nation. And right now the Vail Corporation has bought the hill behind the Park City timeshares. So with one ski pass, you're going to be able to ski Park City or Vail, Colorado. And so that's going to be a big plus for Park City. Plus they're extending all the ski runs. So you're going to be able to ski 5 major Utah ski resorts from the Park City resorts. So they are probably, of all the timeshares you could have bought, Brad, it's probably the best one you could have bought. The thing is, you still owe money on it. So you can't, it's hard to trade something you owe money on.
Well, that's part of what the problem is. There's a lien on it.
Sure.
How do you value it? And he says he's selling it is really not an option, probably because of what he owes on it.
Right. And so my thinking is, in fact, I actually heard a question similar to this on Dave Ramsey's radio show. And I don't always agree with Dave Ramsey, but on this I did. He said he advised the young couple, go ahead and pay it off. Because, you know, if you let it go into foreclosure, it's going to show up as a foreclosure on your credit report because these are deeded timeshare ownerships. You get a warranty deed, they put a deed of trust on them. And if you don't...
Oh, it'll wreck your credit.
And it'll wreck your credit.
Yeah,
so
it's not worth
if you
it.
can, I would go ahead, try to use it. It's a wonderful area.
Or rent it.
Or rent it. That's just, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, there are so many people. I think $175 a day might be for a very, very small unit. I know some of them rent for $250 to $500 a day. You might be able to run an ad in the paper. Another thing is, depending on your work, you might get a big tax write-off. I have a friend that has a couple timeshares. If they can't use them, they give them to charitable organizations for their silent auctions. And it's amazing. I've seen a week in Park City, Utah on a silent auction help the organization $3,000. So this might be a way that you could make a donation and get a tax write-off for some of it. But again, I would keep paying on it so that you don't have it hit your credit. And I would take Curtis's advice, try to rent it. There's nothing that's going to stop you from renting it.
No, and Brad, at $175 a day, he doesn't say, but I'm assuming he's got a week.
Yeah.
Timeshare, that virtually will take care of your $120 a month. You're almost going to break even on it.
Right.
Close enough that it's not going to hurt so bad until you get it paid off. So if you can't get down there, just rent it out, because I don't think there's very many other logical options for him.
Yeah. And, most of these upper-end timeshares allow you to bank your week. If you don't use it, you can bank it. So then next week you have 2 weeks. And you'd be surprised, 2-week vacation is more valuable than a 1-week vacation to a lot of people wanting to trade. So if you're not going to use it, make sure you bank it. And so you can use it later. Otherwise, it's just gone.
Right, right.
Let's see, the next one comes in from Marcus. Marcus, I found a brand new home that I really like, but the sales lady says the model has many upgrades the standard home don't have. So if I write it up, can we just put home to have all upgrades found in the model home located at XXX Drive in Meridian? Marcus, I always believe that when you're drawing up contracts, try to keep it around a 5th grade vocabulary. His seems a little bit less than 5th grade, but I think that, Marcus, that would be the way to go. Have your broker write up that the home that they're building on your lot is to look just like the house that you fell in love with at that other address. And boy, that's proof certain to anyone what's meant to be done. Now, I got a feeling that the builder will probably want to put an addendum and list all the items just for the appraiser's sake. So the appraiser knows what extras are going in for the appraisal. But I use very similar language when I write up a new home, and the people like the model home. And I think you did good. The home to have all the upgrades as found in the model home located at the address where you saw the model home. And I think that's a good way to start. So.
All right. The next question is from Mandy. You said last week that you could not build a tiny home because that subdivision rules would not allow it. My folks have a house on an acre just off South Cole. Many of the neighbors have shops. Why couldn't you build a tiny house instead of a shop, or maybe a shop with a tiny home upstairs? It's just weeds now. Well, Mandy, first of all, the key is, like with your parents, they already have a house there.
All right.
You have to have a residence there, typically in those kind of subdivisions of so many square feet, 2,000 square feet or whatever that is. Then after that, if you want to build a tree house, a shop, a smaller, a second unit, you can certainly do that. The key here is you can't have it be the primary unit or the first unit. Typically, the CC&Rs aren't going to allow it.
Right. And Mandy, I think that's what, because I can't believe how this tiny home house has caught on. I just cannot believe it. I guess the American dream now is to live in a motor home. But I see a lot of those lots out in South Boise where, pre-sewer and water, they put them on acre lots, and there's just no way you can irrigate them with city water, and they're all in weeds. If your folks have a house, they might have equity that would allow them to get a home remodeling loan to help defray the cost of building the tiny home. You're certainly not going to have the ground to worry about. A lot of these tiny homes I'm seeing plans for are on wheels. I'm thinking, Mandy, if I was going to do it, I'd want to put it on a permanent foundation, because then it's going to increase the value of your parents' home the same way a shop would. And I like your idea about incorporating a shop and your tiny home. That's going to give you double value right there. Then you're going to follow the people who want to shop. It's going to give them value. And the people that need an extra house for their adult children, it's going to solve that problem as well. And if you make payments to your folks for the use of the ground, that might offset the money that they have to borrow out to get your tiny home built. So there could be a lot of pluses. And I think we're going to see some infilling. Right now, one of the reasons new homes cost so much is because the land the finished lots that are for sale are very expensive. So the builders are saying, I have to build a $250,000, $300,000 home to justify the cost of the lot. And there are hundreds of lots in Southwest Boise that are on a half acre to an acre, a lot of times just weeds, that I think we will see some infilling. We might even get the city down the road to make it so you can split the lot and make them into flag lots. We see a lot of lots right in downtown Boise. If they've never been split and they're an acre or more, the city will allow you a one-time split. And so I think this might be extended in the future for some of these big acre lots with weeds on them out in Southwest Boise, especially if this tiny home movement continues to grow.
Right.
But I think just to be on the safe side, I would try to incorporate your tiny home with a shop. That way, if the tiny house movement doesn't, extend itself out, I can tell you shops always have value.
Well, they do add value, but trying to, if you've got a little tiny house and you've got a great big shop, you're going to be in trouble with a loan due to the square footage.
Oh, yeah, I don't think anyone would make a loan for a tiny house. No.
No.
I was thinking about building on mom and dad's ground.
Right, after their other house was already
I think if
there.
you want to build a tiny home, you're going to have to
It's a cash
probably
deal.
Cash deal.
Yep.
Go up in the mountains somewhere.
Yep.
Buy a recreational type lot.
Yeah, there's too many financing restrictions, Mandy, to be able to do anything other than just basically a cash or a seller carry situation.
Most of the homes that I see wouldn't qualify for FHA.
Oh, no. They're 200 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, they have minimum square footage requirements for FHA and VA. I think the 650 square feet is the minimum, so,
yeah.
And that's bigger than most tiny homes. Let's see, the next question comes in from Max. Max says, "O demigods of real estate knowledge, I beseech your guidance. Can you sell a property for a loss and still owe the government capital gains tax?" Well, Max, you can, and it happens all the time. Let's say you bought a home for $100,000, and over the course of 10 years, that home is now worth $200,000. So you think, wow, this would be great. I'll pay off all my bills. I'll take a trip. I'll send the kids to college. I'll go in and refinance my house. Well, they're going to allow you to borrow $160,000 easily.
80%, yeah.
And so now your loan is $160,000. Well, we have the Great Recession of 2008, and that home that was, the $200,000 now may only be worth $160,000. So, or maybe $180,000. You might sell it and have enough to pay your realtor fees, maybe enough to help you get into another home, but you're going to have that $60,000 of gain that you made when you took the loan out. And so you actually got the money without having to pay the capital gains tax several years earlier. And I'm seeing this happen an awful lot. And you don't have to worry about it if it's your primary residence, because there aren't capital gains. You get to make capital gains up to $250,000 for a single person, $500,000 for a married couple. But the same scenario we've seen people do with rental properties, or homes that started off being their primary residence and they've converted them to rentals. So now they have to be handled as capital gain sales. And there's a lot of times you could sell the home and end up having to pay the government in capital gains tax more than what you actually made at the sale.
Right.
It happens all the time, Max, and some of you definitely want to check out before you sell it.
Yes. Our last question is from Ben G. Is there still money to be made in buying rentals or fixer-upper properties here in the Valley? Do you find the buyer first and then find the property?
I wish.
If so, how do you find the potential buyers and get them to wait until the project is finished?
Well, Ben, if you could go out and have buyers in hand, every builder in this valley would want to know your technique.
Wouldn't that be
would
nice?
hire you. Every realtor that deals with buyers would hire you. It's just, that's the art, is going out and finding the buyer, knowing what's going to attract the buyer, the terms that they want. So you're not going to have a corral of potential buyers. You're going to do your research and find out what terms they need, what styles they want, and you're going to offer them the styling they want, the square footage they want, the terms they want, at a below market price. Now, can you do that in today's market? You can. Are you going to have one home change your life? Probably not. It's going to be almost a full-time job. You might make $10,000, $15,000 per home if you do everything correct. And if you do 5 homes a year, you might make an extra $50,000, $60,000. But it's going to be a lot of work. So there are professionals out there doing just what Ben wants, but they're taking that risk that they're going to do all the work and then that buyer may not show up, or it may be months before that buyer shows up. And in that case, you're going to want to figure into not only what it costs to buy it, what it costs to renovate it. You're going to want to put some holding costs in there just in case if you're not pricing it right, giving the terms they need, or giving the rehab that they're looking for. We answered all the questions. And of course, it's the first of the year and not as many questions as we normally get, but thank you so much for all of you that went to your computer and typed in www.propertylinetoday.net and sent us your questions, or called them in at 830-2557. We'll be back next week. And until then, for Curtis Mangus and myself, keep your feet on the ground, but keep reaching for the stars. And may God bless each and every one of you. Bye now.
American Pacific Mortgage is a multi-state corporation supported by mortgage professionals who live and work here in the Treasure Valley. The office is at 8921 Hackmore Drive, just off South Maple Grove. American Pacific Mortgage treats you as an individual, not a number. They are a local equal housing lender with underwriters who know the area. Finding the right loan for you is the goal. They have a wide range of loan products: FHA, VA, refinance, home equity, and reverse mortgages for seniors. More on the web at thelendingspot.com or phone 629-4959, NMLS number 1850.